On this episode of Cuesta, my brother David and I get a little combative over a few topics. It's actually pretty fun. We talk about the pretty damn good Super Bowl that happened recently with the Chiefs coming out the victors over the 49ers, the NFLPA and their potential vote on a 17-game season and what we think about that, the Australian Open and the newest young female American to win a Grand Slam, and Djokovic continuing his dominance over the sport. The XFL is here and starting next week. We talk about that. And we talk about the NBA All-Star selection, the most deserving, the snubs, and what we think about the new format. So without any further ado, enjoy the show.
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. Two can be as bad as one. It's the loneliest number since the number one.
What's going on, sports fans? Welcome to another exciting edition of Cuesta Dos. I'm Alex Cuesta. With me to my proverbial right or proverbial left, whichever one he chooses.
Proverbial side.
Proverbial side, proverbial diagonal, possibly. My brother David Cuesta. What's up, Dave?
Nothing much. I'm very excited to talk about some of the topics we have today.
Yeah, we had, another non-regular week because we recorded last Monday, which feels like, last Wednesday, actually, which feels like ages ago.
Yeah.
But we're actually on a shorter week right now because we went from Wednesday to Monday. But there's no shortage of things to talk about. So we're going to jump right into it. I think the obvious thing to talk about right now is women's beach volleyball.
That was a part of the Jimmy Fallon commercial with John Cena in the Super Bowl.
I know.
Remember
when
they
they
were
were on the
bouncing on
tramp, when they were on the
trampolines,
tramp, which was
Yeah.
that commercial was great
It was pretty good.
until the end, and then it wasn't good because what they were advertising for it, I don't even remember. So that just goes to show you
Yeah, I don't
that
remember.
it was useless. So good job, Jimmy Fallon and John Cena, to make a good commercial with no staying power. Fantastic. But we're not here to talk about the Super Bowl commercials. That could be another podcast for another show that's not talking about sports. We're talking about the actual Super Bowl. Yay! Which lived up to the hype in my eyes, Dave. What do you think?
It definitely did. I thought it was a great game. I don't think most people that even don't watch football, I think, enjoyed that game. Like, it wasn't boring. And it had all the earmarks of every Chiefs win this postseason, which is go down and then just somehow come back.
You want to know what else wasn't boring, Dave? That halftime show.
The halftime show was good. It was good. I don't agree with best of all time. I mean, I feel like people were just disrespecting like Michael Jackson and Prince and some of the other halftime shows. But
Dave, we know why it was the best of all time.
I know why it was the best of all time, but we don't have to get into that.
But why, Dave?
I'm not. We don't have to talk about that.
I don't think many kids listen to this show. I think we're good. But anyway, like you mentioned, the Chiefs got the victory, 31-20. The score does not represent the game.
Not at all.
Patty Mahomes gets the MVP. Patty Mahomes didn't play great until the fourth quarter when it mattered.
Yeah.
And that's what makes people great. But I did see something brought up. The fact that Damian Williams has not even been talked about.
Yeah, I feel like that is definitely disrespect to Damian Williams, and I understand the argument that some people are making. I know I saw Skip making this, and I know a lot of people hate Skip Bayless. You have the complete right to. He says a lot of nonsense. But it's a good argument to say, listen, Damian Williams did so much. He would deserve the MVP if you gave it to him.
MVP might be a stretch for the sole reason it's not like Damian Williams kept them in the game alone. It's not like he had that out-of-body game. That he had a very good game. He made a nice catch in a stretch for a touchdown. He cemented it with the run. But when you think of the Chiefs and 49ers Super Bowl, it's not like Terrell Davis when he did it with the Broncos. Or, even Emmitt Smith or Roger Craig or some of these other running backs, Jerome Bettis with the Steelers.
Yeah.
When you think of their Super Bowls, those are the guys that you think of.
No, that's true.
So
I just
you still think Patty
argument.
Mahomes and Andy Reid
Yeah.
when you think of this Super Bowl. So I personally, this Super Bowl victory is one of the most team victories I've ever seen. And it really was team versus team. It wasn't few stars making plays on either side. Both teams really performed and performed well. Now, one thing, Dave, that I have to say is I think I predicted it on here and I've been predicting it. If the score was tied at halftime, I would said the Chiefs were going to win. And it's exactly the way I said it would play out.
Mm-hmm.
That once you put in that situation where the Niners aren't playing from above, which they ended up going up in the third quarter, but it was still a situation where that Chiefs offense just wore down that 49ers defense. What do you think, Dave? Is this an instant classic? Is this consider this one of the top Super Bowls?
No. I thought it was really good, but I don't think it's one of the top Super Bowls. Mainly because if Jimmy G connected with Emmanuel Sanders on that deep pass when they were down, if he connected there, it's going to be one of the top Super Bowls.
That's that wow moment that we didn't
exactly,
get. Really.
Exactly. Because that could have been a touchdown. That could have been a setup for a touchdown with Patty maybe making a comeback to win. Then you get that classic Super Bowl. But for now, it's just a good one. Like last year's wasn't very good. This was a good one.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I agree. We didn't get like Santonio Holmes' toe tap or Manningham with the over-the-shoulder catch, like these memorable plays. Wes Welker dropping the football. I replay that one all the time, and it was awesome. But certain things, we did not get that huge. We had some big plays, but no huge moments in this game.
The biggest one was Sammy cooking Richard Sherman. That was the biggest play we got.
And maybe Nick Bosa's strip sack was an absolute kind of stand up out of your seat play. Yeah,
if it was recovered by the Niners.
Yeah, it would be. It was just a great play where you're watching it and he does it, and you that was a stand up out of your seat, like
like what's
going
to happen here?
Yeah, it was a cool play. Now, one big thing I want to talk about. There was a play at the end of the first half that I think could have changed the whole entire landscape of the football game.
Oh, it did.
Jimmy Garoppolo. There was a pretty nice pass. He had more passing. I think that was part of the game plan to let him throw the ball a little bit. And it worked. It kept the Chiefs off balance. But he had a dime at the end of the first half to Kittle. And they call offensive pass interference on very little, Dave. Whether or not you think it's the quote-unquote right call by the letter of the law, in the Super Bowl, at the end of the half, with both guys ham fighting, I don't think you can make that call. And I hate when the officials put themselves in games like that.
No, I understand. I know you kind of let Matt troll you yesterday.
Well, I was playing into it, obviously.
Yeah, but no, my thoughts on it were that if it was me out there watching that in real time, I wouldn't have called that. Mainly because George Kittle already had him beat. Yes, there was a slight push. Yes, there was full extension. But George Kittle already had him beat. Sorensen had no way of getting to him. And it was just an easy play to make. So I wouldn't have called that. But I see the reason, because there was full extension and there was a little bit of a...
I don't, because how many times do they put the ball in the back corner of the end zone and the receiver clearly has his arms full extended and then goes up? It's an
argument of consistency. I get that. I get that there's no reason to call it. But if you want to just go by what the rule actually is, then I understand it. But if you want to argue consistency, then
in the modern NFL, that's not offensive pass interference. It just isn't. That's not. I don't care what the letter of the law is. It's what it's been called. The book gets thrown out when you just have certain plays that just happen. It's kind of like before MLB changed the neighborhood rule with the turning two, where you didn't have to touch the bag when you were trying to turn a double play. As long as your feet were in the area, it was to prevent injuries. They gave it to you. This is kind of like that kind of rule where the neighborhood rule wasn't a real rule. It was just something that they went with. The offensive pass interference, as long as you don't shove them, they have been giving the benefit of the doubt over my whole entire lifetime.
I get it. I 100% get it. Like I said, I wouldn't have called it. But I do not think it is one of the most egregious things that we've ever seen. That's my whole point.
Well, absolutely. Well, yeah, obviously the Saints was a Saints-Rams game.
Yeah.
Takes the cake in that. And I agree, it's not the most egregious, but in terms of the way the Niners like to play, and how even maybe getting that 3 points going into the half, that would
have done a lot for them.
It could have changed the game. And I don't know. It's hard to say because once the Chiefs went hurry up in the fourth quarter, you could tell that completely took the 49ers off, and they started going after Richard Sherman, which was pretty damn surprising. And I think the Niners screwed up because I was expecting to see more man underneath on Tyreek Hill with someone lurking up top. And I don't think they did that enough with him. They just kind of left a big 3 to up top zone with a zone underneath instead of shadowing a man on him.
All they wanted to do the whole game was to make sure there are no big plays, and it worked. It really did work for most of the game. I think the biggest problem.
Chiefs had 2 big plays all game. Really,
exactly. But I think the biggest problem was the fact that since their offense wasn't able to get any drives going, that defense gets tired, and you can't keep up with these extremely fast receivers and Patty Mahomes moving around the pocket all the time. It just gets tough.
Kudos to the Chiefs. This is now 2 weeks.
The Chiefs defense the Chiefs defense needs some praise because no matter how bad the Niners might have called the rest of that fourth quarter, you still need to stop them. So kudos to the Chiefs defense for buckling down and giving their offense the opportunities to come back.
And it's 2 weeks in a row that for this whole postseason, we've seen once the Niners, once Mostert, once Tevin Coleman, Max Breida, once one of them gets a big chunk run, they continue to do it.
Yeah.
And they feed them and they feed them. We saw those chunk runs this game. We saw those 13, those 15, those 10. But then they buckled down.
Yep.
We didn't see the running game go wild for the Niners, and that definitely affected their game plan.
Yeah. Oh, no, it 100% did. I'm surprised they didn't still try it to just keep the Chiefs believing in the run, because it seemed like the Chiefs stopped believing in the run at one point, and it was all on Jimmy G, which I don't like doing that to most quarterbacks in general unless they're absolutely elite. So, because a lot of the Niners' offense is predicated off of running the ball, you hit them with a play action, they're already biting enough that you get the separation.
Yeah, they have some head scratching to do because you can't put this all on Jimmy Garoppolo, but he did make some head scratching plays, and I don't know. I wanted to believe Jimmy Garoppolo could be like a top 10, top 15 guy. Just off of this game, there were some throws that he probably should have made, some bat downs that were just obvious they were reading his eyes. They might have to consider possibly giving him a challenge this offseason.
Listen. This is one game. Jimmy G was perfectly fine in the first half. You want to know who didn't look good in the second and third quarter? Patty Mahomes. He simply did not look good.
No, he was uncomfortable.
He looked rattled. He looked uncomfortable. So what happened with Patty in the second and third? He turned up in the fourth, which it matters how you finish. It doesn't really matter how you start. So he turned up in the fourth, and that's how they got the win. Jimmy G started getting rattled. But, I mean, it's one game. Listen, you can think he's a game manager. I think he's a little bit above that now. He's shown he can win games with his arm. Obviously, he doesn't need to, so why would you do it? But it's a big game. He hasn't done this before. The Chiefs have been at least to the championship game, a D Ford lining up off sides away from the Super Bowl. So there's big differences there.
So you bring up that they knocked on the door last year. They win it this year, the Chiefs. Are they automatically the favorite going into next year? And mind you, they lose Kareem Hunt this year, replace him with Damian Williams, and struggle a little to get consistency. Patty gets hurt. Once it all comes together, they're a hell of a football team.
Well, they already had Damian Williams last year.
Well, I mean, but in terms of him taking over for Kareem Hunt.
It really doesn't matter who the Chiefs have as a running back. Not to take away from Damian Williams, but if you can go out and catch the ball and just make some moves, that offense will find. Andy Reid will find a way to get you involved and get you in your speedy self to get some yards. Because when you have to worry about Patty so much throwing the ball, that the running back is freed up to do a lot.
So, quick hypothetical. Tom Brady had a cryptic message in one of the commercials. I don't care what that said. New England fans are breathing a sigh of relief. They might not when John Gruden gets to him. If Brady goes to Oakland, are they the automatic favorites to challenge the Chiefs? Because that Oakland team was good, and they were possibly a quarterback away from being very good.
In the West, I guess, because I don't know what because I think the Broncos are going to be better. The Broncos were actually not a bad team this year. They lost a lot of close games, a lot of games that they should have won, which they lost in like the final minute. But I think the Broncos will be better. But I think if Tom Brady goes to the Raiders, you have to pin them as the ones challenging the Chiefs.
The Vegas Raiders, that is.
Yes, that's true. I'm still going to call them Oakland, but yes, the Vegas Raiders. I still call the Chargers San Diego. So
San Diego, Superchargers. Chris Berman, don't sue me. All right. But that'll wrap up our Super Bowl talk, Dave. I think we pretty much encompassed it there.
Yeah, I think so. But just I'm very happy for Andy Reid. I just want to put that out there. I'm so happy for Andy Reid. He deserves this. I haven't seen one person be upset that Andy Reid won a Super Bowl. Everyone
he was a Hall of
him.
Famer before this, but people argued that he couldn't win the big game. He gets the Super Bowl. He's now a bona fide Hall of Fame coach. I'm happy for him.
Yep. All right. Well, we're done with the Super Bowl. We can move on from that. It's finally over. But now we get on to next season. And apparently, you brought this up to me. I didn't see it. But the NFLPA will vote on a 17 game this season in the CBA. Now, that's interesting to me because I really don't see too much of a reason for it. I don't know what this says to you.
One of the things it says to me is if there's not a second bye in this, then again, like I've said before, the whole entire player safety nonsense is bunk. If you're going to sit there and add an extra game without adding an extra bye, then what are you trying to say to the players? The players have been trying to get less playing time in terms of beating up on their body. They don't hit as much in practice. Oh, but let's just add a new game. Dave, I honestly think 17 games is stupid. I like the 18 game format better because if you're going to add one, just add the second one and just go with 2 byes right away. I think it would be better that way.
Is there really a reason to add games? I don't know. I don't entirely see the reason.
Money.
I mean, I guess that is the biggest reason, but it changes up a lot of strategy for coaches. If you do that, that changes up a lot of what you do with a roster.
And I think it changes up kind of, the record books got changed when it went from 14 to 16.
Yeah.
And now when they go to 16 to 17, we're going to possibly see closer to 6,000 yard seasons for passing instead of 5,000 yard, being the big. We'll see guys be able to, obviously not right away, but that could be a potential benchmark. And that's an insane number.
Yeah, we'll 100% see the rushing record broken.
Yeah, we'll see over 2,000 yards easily. Not easily, obviously, but 1,000-yard rush will become like almost a thing of the past. You can't be a starting running back nowadays unless you can average close to 4 yards a carry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think unless, like I said, I would be okay with it if they include a second bye week as well, because then at least they wouldn't be completely full of crap when it comes to talking about player safety. That's just my take on that.
No, it's definitely fair. I think it's fair to hold them to what they talk about, to what they say they're going to do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the almighty dollar trumps all. Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, there was a stupid commercial where they played it a lot. They play it still when they start talking about all the technology that they're using to make a game safer, and safer is better. Can we not get on that bandwagon? Safer is not better. I'm sorry. If you think this football product is better than what we watched in the 90s, you're out your damn mind. If you think that the hard hitting that we miss now, you're nuts. You're nuts. And for all the fans that you guys, the ones that sit in there, fans that go, yeah, but they're safer and they care about them. You didn't care and you still don't care. You're just trying to sit up there on your high horse. Stop it. This is not I'm sorry, Dave. I still love football. This is not a better product than what we had in the 90s and even in the early 2000s.
Well, I mean, I can't really attest to that because I was very young.
I mean, you weren't a thing until 96.
That's what I'm saying. I was very young, so I can't attest to it. I can't really speak too much to it. But if you do look at highlights, like we really don't have a Brian Dawkins, a Sean Taylor anymore. I mean,
even a Steve Atwater who just got in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Like we don't have those players anymore. Like right now, the closest one is probably Jamal.
Yeah, Jamal Adams. He would have been, and the thing is too, Jamal Adams, I don't know if he would have been Jamal Adams. Like obviously he's a major talent, but he might have been more like a Roy Williams. I don't know if you remember Roy Williams from the Cowboys, but somewhat. He was kind of a hit you really hard or mess up a read in the secondary. Those were the two options with Roy Williams. There was no in between. So, and Jamal Adams, I think, has more talent than that. But
Yeah,
with
he
the way
does.
he sticks his nose in things,
Well,
eh,
he's not to go too far on just talking about Jamal. I just want to say he's
we could
more
do
of
a whole
he's a
podcast on Jamal.
exactly. He's a prototype. He's like Troy Polamalu. He's the hybrid. He's all over the place, and yeah, he'll mess up reads because he'll mess up coverage because he'll be inside that play trying to cause disruption just in the way he knows how. But most of the time, he's doing the right thing more than the wrong thing.
He is. So I just wanted to throw that as a quick aside. Now we're going to move off football completely. We're going to go on to le tennis. Tennis. We don't talk about tennis much, Dave, which is unfortunate because tennis is great. You played tennis in high school, and you learned how to play tennis from me and our father, which, funny story about David and tennis. Dave, I'm going to tell the story about you when you first played.
You can go ahead.
Me and my dad would go play. David was a wee lad. He's 8 years younger than me. And we would invite him to go play because if not, he would just sat inside. So we would bring him out there and we would try to put a racket in his hand. And he would sit on the court and cry. And then we'd shoo him off and we'd play.
Yeah, I'm better than the both of you, so I'm
And
cool
now
with
you
it.
are better than the both of us. It took like 7 or 8 times for you to eventually get the ball over a net. And then you're like, oh, this is kind of cool, I guess. But on to people that are significantly better than both of us by like a lot. A lot. We're going to talk about the Aussie Open. It just wrapped up. And big news, one thing that I like, we have an American champion.
Yes, we do.
And surprisingly not named Coco Gauff, Sloane Stevens, or any of the Williams sisters. Sophia Kenin, who I admit I have not been paying attention to tennis as much as I would like to. I used to pay attention to it much more. I don't know anything about Sophia Kenin besides the fact that she's 21. And she is the youngest American female to win a Grand Slam since Serena did. And also the youngest to win an Aussie Open since Maria Sharapova. And she ousted the number 1 seed to get here. This is a pretty cool story, Dave.
It's a great story, and really it speaks to what the last time we talked about with tennis, and the fact that it seems like women's tennis we have a lot more upcoming stars, we have a lot more younger talent that are able to win these, and now men's tennis, it's still the same guys. I mean, I don't hate it, but we want to see the younger talent in the men's, so we know we're in good hands.
Yeah, and just a little aside too with her, I mentioned Coco Gauff. Kenin beat Coco Gauff to get here as well.
Yes,
So
yes, she did.
it's a really cool journey, and it's something I hope to see her build on because the Aussie Open's a nice stepping stone. But let's see how she performs when she gets into the U.S. Open, which is going to be a lot of pressure being an American that just won a Grand Slam. But I'm excited for her. You talked about the old blood in the men's game. Lo and behold, Novak Djokovic
Yep, and
wins, but he didn't win in a typical Joker style, Dave.
No.
It was a come from behind. He was down 2 sets. He wins it in 5 sets, which is miraculous because I don't know, you probably remember when Djokovic first burst onto the scene, his major problem was his stamina.
Yes.
He would quit games that where he was in against Nadal, Federer, Monfrey, the best guys, because his stamina was done.
Mm-hmm.
And now to win in 5 when being down by 2, and it's his 8th Aussie championship, Novak Djokovic is quickly right on the back of Roger Federer, Pete Sampras, Nadal. It's unbelievable.
No doubt he's easily one of the best to play. the domination that Djokovic had even during the time when Nadal and Federer were still around, like near their primes. Like now they're out of it, but they're still good enough to play. But Djokovic has been absolutely insane. And I mean, you get older, you know you're going to have to win in other ways, and you're going to have to build that stamina. So I think he understood that.
Now, I'm curious where Djokovic is going to sit in the hierarchy of your Bjorks, of your Pete Sampras, of your Roger Federer, because I think Nadal, in terms of clay court, is the best clay court player we've ever seen.
Easily.
And it's not close. But in terms of everything else, he was outdone on hard court by Federer a lot. So I think Federer takes the cake over Nadal in terms of those two's rivalry. And Federer enters into the Pete Sampras Bjork level. But Djokovic is right there, Dave. I don't know if he's top 3 yet, but if he gets another Grand Slam or 2, we got to consider him in there.
You know, we have to see how the rest of the career pans out. I mean, obviously with the way,
and we might not even need another Grand Slam or 2. The guy has won so much already.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously with the way Federer and Nadal are going, you can dominate for a long time. You can play well for a long time. So we might see Joker still playing for a while.
Oh, and lo and behold, still no American champions in
No,
the men's side.
no, and I have a feeling we may
Pretty
not.
embarrassing.
Yeah, we may not see that until Federer and Nadal are gone, which is probably going to be sooner than later.
It's been almost 2 decades since Andy Roddick hung it up completely. And Andy Roddick was our last great hope.
Yeah.
Last Grand Slam champion. He won a U.S. Open. Ridiculous.
One will
Absolutely
turn up.
ridiculous.
One will turn up. Younger generation always ends up popping up at one point.
And I hope so, because I feel like if there's more Americans, like me and you, we talk when an American female does anything big, we love to bring it up. I feel like if there was more Americans competitive during the Grand Slam time, we would be talking a lot more tennis on here, because we both like tennis.
Oh no, yeah, no, it's always a fun sport to watch. It's always, especially in these tournaments, you have like
Yeah.
you have a million games going on and a million courts, so, especially in the earlier rounds.
David, maybe we
fun.
should do a sports opinions thing over at the U.S. Open one time.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to go. I would love to just go without without even caring about anything else that's going
We
to
might not even have to go and do this. Yeah, maybe we should plan a trip, because I know a bunch of your friends, a bunch of the guys affiliated with Sports Opinions. Actually, Matt Santos played tennis as well. So did Rob Planter of the Playbook. So we have some tennis guys.
Yeah.
Matt Santos actually broke a net at the court in Manchester at our home high school. Hi, Matt. I hope you're listening. But
All right.
all right, we'll move on.
Anyway, we'll move on from the long honored sport of tennis to something that's going to be brand new and something that we've covered a whole lot on
Which
this
had
podcast.
A great commercial during the Super Bowl, by the way.
It had a couple good commercials.
At the
during
end of the
Bowl.
Super Bowl, though, when it just ended, I love the commercial when they were talking about like the psychiatry of football.
Yeah.
When it's being played and when it's not, and when they're like, "Hey, lo and behold, we have a cure."
Yeah, and that's the XFL. If anyone didn't notice, we're going to talk about the XFL yet again. No break in football action, folks. Starting this Saturday, there's going to be 2 games.
Quick timeout, real quick. I have to say something.
Yeah.
If the XFL flops, Dave, we're not allowed to talk about fudging leagues unless they do anything good, because this would be the AAF and the XFL.
I'm talking about no matter what.
Well, we got to wait for the Freedom Football League to actually do something. I don't know if they're still a thing.
That's true. Listen, I can totally see the XFL flopping, but
Did once already.
yeah, exactly. But I don't know if Vince is going to have the same payroll problem that the AAF did. But
No.
anyway, starting Saturday, we have at 2 and 5 p.m. 2 p.m. Seattle versus DC, and at 5 p.m. we have LA versus Houston. And Sunday, same times, 2 and 5 p.m. Tampa Bay versus New York, and St. Louis versus Dallas. Now, these are on ABC, Fox, and ESPN. So obviously they have the right packages for people to actually view it. Let's see if people actually go and take notice of it. Maybe the first week I can see a bunch of people turning in, because why not? Give it a shot.
That's the first thing that they have on the AAF. They have a better package in terms of the networks that they're using and the time slots. 2 and 5 are good slots. 2 is it's around the typical NFL time, so people are still geared up for football, but it's not the typical NFL times. And 5's a great time because it's dinner time. It's going to be nothing for a football fan to just go on, play. Most of us have TVs either in our kitchen, around our kitchen that we can access, or on our phones. People will watch it, Dave.
I think people will watch it, at least for the first week. I mean, we saw a lot of turnout for the AAF in the first week, so I think it's going to be the same for the XFL, unless...
Now, did it sour? Did the AAF...
That's what I was going to bring up.
Unless sour, yeah.
Unless it left a bitter taste and they just don't want to try it again. But we may see some cool things. Obviously, we went over the rule changes in one of our earlier podcasts. I can't entirely remember which one. There's a lot of different rule changes. They want to make the games faster. And they want... Go ahead.
Well, just one thing another thing the XFL has, bigger markets. They focused on bigger markets.
Yes,
They're using
yes,
real
they do.
stadiums
Mm-hmm.
and more name recognition in the quarterback position. And that's helpful.
Yeah.
People know who Matt McGloin is in the Northeast. People know who Josh Johnson is.
People know who Cardell Jones is.
People know who Cardell Jones is. All these guys do have name recognition and star power from some time or another.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be big, but again, ultimately, we talked about this. The line play will determine everything. Like it did in the AAF, and it will here.
Like it does in the NFL. If you have a bad line, you're not going to be a good team most of the time.
Exactly. That's a challenge for the coaches, and it's a real tough one.
Yeah, and we got to see how it plays out. I mean, I think they made the right choice, taking a long time to get this going. They took their extra year to make sure everything was right, to make sure everything looked good. And one of my favorite things has nothing to do with what's going to happen on the field, has all to do with the presentation. Apparently, Pat McAfee is going to get a job commentating in a way that we haven't seen before. He's just going to kind of be on the field, going around and doing things. I don't entirely know what the position is.
That's
I don't think he knows either. Just kind of putting a mic in his hand and saying, go ahead, have fun. And for those who know Pat McAfee, you probably like him. You probably enjoy the way he speaks on things. So
yeah,
I think that's a great job by the XFL getting him.
Here's the real burning question. Which of the 8 teams is Andrew Luck going to choose? We all know the conspiracy that he retired from the NFL to make the XFL amazing.
No, I said it would have been hilarious if Tom Brady just went to
His
XFL.
dad is running the league. His dad runs the league. The conspiracy is real.
I don't know about all of that.
Come to New York.
Yeah,
Guardians.
We have Matt McGloin. We're fine.
Speaking of the Guardians, how's that football?
It's good. It's good. It's good. And to your question that you posed to me earlier, will I watch all 4 games? Unfortunately, I can't. Wish I could. But Saturday, I am going to see a play.
Very nice.
So I will not be able to catch, I don't think, either of those. But Sunday, I will definitely catch those.
I mean, I would say to TiVo it, but is TiVo still a thing?
No, it's not.
God, TiVo, that little TV was so creepy. I hate TiVo.
He's a good boy.
He's not. He's the devil. He's the devil.
All right.
Speaking of the devil, All-Star games. Hooray! Dave, the NBA All-Stars were announced. The starters were announced a little while ago, but the reserves also came out. I'm just going to run over the teams really quick just so we can, kind of talk about who's there. We'll talk about the snubs. And I also want to talk about the change in format because we mentioned Kobe Bryant and the disaster and the tragedy that happened. They're honoring him at the All-Star game with the new format. So I'm going to run over the teams really quick. We'll talk about the snubs, and then I want to touch on the format. How's that sound?
That sounds good to me.
All right. Eastern Conference, Team Giannis. Trae Young, Kemba Walker, Pascal Siakam, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid are the starters. Reserves, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, Chris Middleton, Domantas Sabonis, Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum. For the West Conference, Team LeBron, James Harden, Luka Doncic, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron, obviously, Anthony Davis. For Western Conference, Rudy Gobert, Brandon Ingram, Nikola Jokic, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook. Play a little game right here, Dave. Eastern Conference All-Star team. I read it to you. I hope you remember who they are. Who would you take out and who would you put in from guys that didn't get in?
Of the starting or the reserves?
Everything. Just one player for one player. It doesn't matter if they'd be starting or reserve.
Ooh. Now that's a tough one. But I like the starters.
Think East.
I like the starters for the East. I do. I think Jimmy Butler could have possibly been moved up to a starter.
Should have been moved up to a starter.
Jimmy Butler has been absolutely astronomical for the Heat.
Oh, yeah. Out of his mind.
The reason why they're so good.
Mm-hmm.
Even though their young talent has stepped up incredibly, he's the reason why they have.
Yep.
The way he plays. But it's tough because I want to put Bradley Beal as an all-star because of the way he plays. He's played out of his mind this whole season. He's played out of his mind his whole career, honestly. And Bradley Beal just hasn't gotten any recognition. So I do want to put him in. You know me, well, the both of us, we both love Spencer Dinwiddie. He's been playing very well all year.
Yes, he has.
For a very good stretch of games, he definitely deserved to be an all-star. He obviously faded a little bit, but only a little bit. So I can understand him not being an all-star. I think Tobias Harris isn't playing great for the Sixers, but I can see him not being in. The only other one is possibly Zach LaVine, but I mean, your argument about one of them going to bring up for the West. would stay the same for Zach LaVine. That's because he's on a losing team. But I mean, you just look at his stats, the way he's been playing. He just puts a team on his back.
Yeah, team on his back to a terrible record. That's awesome.
You can't do much when the rest of your team isn't playing well.
No excuses. Play like a champion, David.
That's stupid.
But so to play that game on the flip side with me, Joel Embiid, you're not an all-star this year. Sorry, you're not. Your name's an all-star. You haven't played. Neither has Kyrie, which is why I have no issue with Kyrie not being here.
Yeah.
When they're on the floor, they're both unbelievable. Kyrie's averaging 28 points when he's on the floor. I think Embiid is probably just shy of 25 and almost a double-double.
He's 23 with 12 rebounds.
Yeah, exactly. When they're playing.
Yeah.
Neither of them are playing. I'm okay with Kyrie being off. Joel Embiid should not be on this team. Period. I also have a little bit of an issue with Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum has good numbers, but we see the real all-star in Kemba Walker. He's the reason why the Celtics are the Celtics. Jason Tatum, again, I think is a nice little nod for being young and good recognition. I agree with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is an all-star, and so is Spencer Dinwiddie. Those are the two guys that got snubbed from the East. And I don't mind the addition of Bam Adebayo or, and you mentioned Domantas Sabonis either, because both of those guys, Bam is going to be up for Defensive Player of the Year. He's playing that well. And Jimmy Butler is making it better, but Bam does deserve it. And Sabonis is the cog that is making the Pacers play any sort of good.
Yeah, he's the reason why they perform so well with Oladipo out.
Yeah, so I would say my two guys are Embiid and Jason Tatum, and flip-flop them for Spencer Dinwiddie and Bradley Beal. Now, Dave, on the West, do you remember? You're probably looking at the West team, same as me.
Yes, I have all of them up.
Okay. Who would you swap out and who would you put in? Again, doesn't matter, starters, reserves. Go ahead.
All the starters are perfectly fine to me. In fact, they all deserve to be starters. They're all having ridiculous seasons, so they're perfectly fine.
In reality, this could have also been Team Luka. This could have been Team Harden. This could have been.
It could have been.
There's a few of them on there. It could have been.
Exactly. And I like Brandon Ingram. He's a mini KD. He's been playing out of his mind for the Pelicans. He hits from anywhere on the floor. His mid-range game is disgusting. Chris Paul has been very good for the OKC Thunder. I would take him off this team. Take him off this team. I'd probably put Devin Booker there. I know you don't like this argument, but Devin Booker is averaging 27 points per game. 27 points per game with 6 assists.
And they're losing games 30 to 150.
I don't care.
He's the only reason that he's the only scorer.
Wouldn't that mean a lot then? Like that. Anyway, but I would take Chris Paul off. Damian Lillard deserves it. Rudy Gobert is a defensive powerhouse. Donovan Mitchell has been playing well. And Jazz are now the fourth. At first, the Jazz were in a bad stretch, but are now fourth in the West. So I understand it. He can be in. Nikola Jokic is the reason the Nuggets are so good. And Uncle Russell is playing very well. And actually, that's it. My bad.
I agree with Chris Paul being out. I agree with that. As much as I like Chris Paul, Ja Morant is the all-star over Devin Booker.
I wouldn't do that.
I would 100%. 100%. He's the reason why Memphis is sitting in eighth and at 500.
I understand.
It's not a 500 basketball team.
I understand what you're saying, and they obviously coalesce very well with Ja Morant. But I don't know. I don't know, man. I'd still go. Just the absolute skill of Devin Booker is what puts him in there for me.
And I'm not going to argue the talent. And we know Devin Booker's scoring prowess. It's unbelievable. But I'm not going to put you in an all-star game on scoring prowess alone. I'm not. Because you're not. Who else is? For me, you have to be able to make everyone on this list, including the guys that we're saying take off, make everyone else better on their team. Who is Devin Booker making better? He has another talent in DeAndre Ayton there. I haven't seen DeAndre Ayton get much better. I see Devin Booker get better. And maybe Devin Booker isn't the leader. He's not that type of guy. He's a scorer. But even scorers like James Harden have learned how to make their other teammates better. And then Devin Booker is not a kid anymore. I don't know. I love the kid. I love the scoring prowess. Not an all-star if his team is not playing that good, especially this year.
Yeah, I see it, but I'm still going to go with him.
Well, you're still going to be wrong.
The only other person that, since I looked up some of the things that
Don't say
people are
Carl
throwing out
Anthony
there,
Towns. Don't you dare.
is he's an interesting one, man.
The-
He's
I think
definitely an interesting one.
in the last 12 games that he's played, they're 0-12.
Hey, man. Sometimes it's tough to do. He's averaging a double-double. He's at 26.9 points per game, 10.7 rebounds.
I think Wiggins has a better plus-minus than him right now.
Hey, man. It's
Wiggins
tough to do
deserves
it
it
a lot.
more than he does right now.
I disagree with that completely. Wiggins has improved very well. Wiggins has done a lot of good for himself this year, but that's an insane statement to make.
Now, what about Paul George? They haven't been shy about putting two guys from the same team on there. He's averaging 23-6 and three assists with 39 with almost 40% from three. Those are all-star numbers.
Yeah, but apparently the other numbers I brought up aren't all-star numbers.
But they're on the second best team in the league, Dave.
Yeah, and it's not
Third
just
best
Paul
team in the
George that
league.
makes him the second best team in the league. Let's get
No,
that
it's
straight.
him and one other guy.
No, it's Kawhi Leonard. No, it's Kawhi Leonard, him, and the rest of that damn team. That team is very good.
Okay. And within a very good team, he's still averaging those numbers. He's getting his piece of the pie. That's how good he is. If you could still average those numbers amongst a good team, then you are a focal point of that team.
I just don't see who I would put him over.
Chris Paul.
Yeah. Well,
And even Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is not having a Rudy Gobert season. That is
Yeah,
name recognition for
but you
being
need your
Defensive
bigs.
Player of the Year 2
you
years
need
in a
your
row.
bigs.
Paul George can play the four.
No, he can't.
He's played the four in his career.
Yeah,
He's a
but
small four. And it's the All-Star game. Is there positions? Seriously? There needs no bigs. The
Yeah,
center
but-
isn't even a position anymore.
But you need front court and back court. Otherwise, you'll just see 15 guards on the floor.
I
And
really
that's
think
even-
we're going to see that next year. They're going to get rid of it. I think they're going to get rid of front and back court. It's been clamoring for the last 6 years.
I hope not. Centers deserve love, man.
For what?
What do you mean for what?
What do they do now?
Oh, just stop.
They're gigantic
Stop.
guards. They all try to dribble.
Stop.
They shoot
Just
threes,
stop. Just
and they
stop.
think they could pass.
Just stop.
No. They've
Just
destroyed
stop.
the center position.
You can see the difference in teams with good centers and without good centers.
Yeah, but the good centers are all power forwards. They play more like power forwards or big small forwards.
They're just
They're
able-
really big small forwards.
No, stop, stop. This
Andre
all-star
Drummond-
discussion. This all-star
Andre Drummond
discussion
is
has
one of the
become
best centers in
ridiculous.
the NBA 10 years ago, if not 15. One of the most dominant for his typical style. Now, he's considered possibly being a bench guy.
He's still a very good center. The Pistons just decided to put Blake Griffin next to Andre Drummond and not care about their backcourt. What are you talking about? He's still dominant. The man has multiple 20-point, 20-rebound games. What's
But
wrong with
nobody
you?
talks about that. Who talks when Drummond goes 20-20, which is really only against the Nets, I think. But when he goes 20-20, it's not a big thing. We're back in the day when Dwight Howard was as dominance, who was having a very good
Okay.
season, but nobody talks about him.
But who would talk about the Pistons? The Magic were actually a good team. That's the point.
I don't know. I don't think Drummond gets credit, even if they are a good team.
I think
Just
he
because
does.
nobody cares about the 20-20 unless it's 20 points and 20 assists.
I think
If
he-
it's 20 points and 20 rebounds, everyone's like, oh, but can Drummond shoot a three? No. And that's it. Conversation's dead.
I think if you care about your basketball team being good, you care about that. Honestly,
If the Pistons were good, Drummond would be coming off the bench. He will be relegated to a bench player.
For
that
who?
would be the way. And I'm not saying who it would be that would play over him, but the makeup of teams don't allow for back to the basket, not able to shoot three-pointing centers anymore. It's just the way it is, Dave. That's the new basketball. We play Euroball.
oh my goodness, you hurt. You give the big hurt.
Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about, before we wrap it up, we're going to talk about the new announcement. We mentioned the Kobe tragedy again. In wake of the Kobe tragedy, the NBA has decided to pay tribute to him, which, again, I think we're all hoping they do more. But this is a nice step. So they're in trying to make the All-Star game a better time, more fun for the fans, and also paying tribute to Kobe. Here are some of the changes that they did. Instead of a typical 48-minute game, every quarter is going to be a separate game. So the first 3 quarters are all going to be 12 minutes apiece, and the team that wins that quarter will have a donation go to a Chicago-based charity. It's pretty cool. So each quarter starts at 0-0 and they play. So to end the game, this gets a little tricky, so I'm going to try and explain it as well as I can. To end the game, what they do is they take the cumulative of the 3 quarters for each team, and whoever has the higher point total would have to just score 24 more points. So the example they give here is, say at the end of the 3 quarters, the score is 100-95. The target score in the fourth quarter is untimed. The target score would be 124. So the fourth quarter would start at 100-95, and the first team to get to 124 would win. It's a tribute to Kobe for number 24, obviously. And it's a pretty cool, if not confusing, thing. How do you feel about that, Dave?
I don't know. I like it. I like changing up the format. No one really cared about no one really cares about All-Star games in most sports.
I still probably won't care. I'm not gonna lie.
That's true, but at least they're giving for this All-Star game, like they're giving to charity for the All-Star game,
Yes.
and obviously it's in memoriam of Kobe, but I wouldn't mind if they just kept giving to charity in every All-Star game. Like that's a pretty damn good idea to say at least we're doing something with this. Like it's not just them going around and having fun. Listen. You can go and have fun as much as you want. I'm not saying don't have fun with the All-Star game, but you have the game basically ending like 2:10 to 2:11, and like you don't see much of a basketball game. You just see them showing off their range or showing off how well they can dunk.
No, I think it's going to encourage better play. I think we'll still see the fun because they know the fans also come there to see that.
Oh, no doubt.
They come there to see the crazy stuff. But I think we'll probably see about 10 minutes of that in each quarter. And the last 2, I think they're going to intentionally keep it fairly close together. And then the last 2 they're going to play in each quarter. And then I think the fourth quarter is actually going to be a pretty decent style game. Obviously, the defense is not going to be hard defense, but I think they'll play a little more. They'll give more resistance, which is better than what they normally do. Mm-hmm. Now, I would really like to see them do away with all this and call up Ice Cube and say, listen, we're taking your format. And the All-Star game will be the big 3. And just make like 8 teams of 3 and just do it that way. 3v3, tournament, champions. I think that'll be more exciting.
I mean, that'd be pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. Seeing 3v3 games of NBA All-Stars.
One big 2 guards. Cool. One big 2 guards, like a small forward a small forward point guard, shooting guard. 2 of them and one big down there, and then have fun.
That would definitely be interesting. I'd give him that.
And just go 1st to 24. Really want to pay tribute to Kobe? Each of the games are 1st to 24. Yeah.
But I will say, I do not like that they're shying away from anything else paying tribute to Kobe. I want that damn logo changed.
I don't care if it's a logo change. I don't care if it's retiring 24 forever. I don't care if it's even just retiring 2 for Gianna. If you want to just do it for Gianna, retire number 2. Do it. Do something. Do something more besides the All-Star game. The All-Star game is nice, but the All-Star game isn't Kobe. Kobe was the league.
Yeah.
He was a great representation of the league. So please do something bigger. Dave, I think that's going to wrap up this bad boy.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we have much more to say about the All-Star game and about how you're wrong about centers.
I mean, I guess if you haven't watched basketball, which apparently you haven't.
Oh, okay.
Apparently you haven't watched basketball.
Okay.
You know where the center's still relevant, Dave, in college? And how many college centers?
Let's not extend this. Let's not extend this. I have to go to sleep.
We can and we will. But anyway, everyone, thank you for listening to this exciting and more combative than normal episode of Cuesta Dose, which I liked. Again, that's David Cuesta over there in my proverbial rear because he's wrong, so he's in the back. Okay. You can find him on Twitter.
Have me start with the side at the beginning of this, and now
what? You're the caboose. You become the caboose
I disagree,
for your bad opinions.
Whatever.
This is sports opinions, but yours are bad. Anyway, his Twitter is dcuesta at dcuesta308. Instagram, Cuesta Cola. I'm Alex Cuesta. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at @A_Cuesta30. I keep it simple. I don't change it up like David. Find I'm picking on you today, Dave. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30, Instagram, SportsOpinions30. Visit Facebook. And I want emails. Send emails. If you want us to talk about certain topics on Cuesta Dos, include that in there. If you want to tell us we suck, if you want to tell us we're awesome, if you want to say that David's opinions are right, I'll block you. But send them anyway.
At least you'll be a smart person.
Oh, my God, no. But if you're going to send them to sportsopinions30 at gmail.com. I would love to read them and get them. But again, this was Cuesta Dos. Everybody, so long.